We're going to be presenting in a hybrid fashion, both with folks here in the building and on Zoom. So hello out there in Zoom land also. I know we have people from, I think Joanne said, all across the country probably. And what we're going to do is, this is our vendor orientation choice partners. My name is Jeff Drury, the senior director of the group here. And hopefully what we want you to take away is, I don't know where I'm walking or not, so you'll tell me. What we want you to take away is use this as a tool to help you sell your goods or services, really. We know you're out there selling already, companies are already in business. We want to make it easier for you to go out and sell to our members. Even bring new members in, which a lot of our vendors do also. But basically, we want to just make it to where you help your customers, our members, save time and money, give them a good price, make the procurement process a lot easier and quicker. And get these guys, I always use the analogy, kind of moving paper from one side of the desk to the other side of the desk, from your inbox to your outbox. We just want to help you sell more of what you're selling and in less time. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of do a little bit of introductory, and then I'll cover the agenda. We'll have a couple of other people up here talking about various aspects and trying to help you out and help inform you about who we are, what we are. There are a lot of other co-ops out there, kind of how good we feel we are, and how we can help you sell products and services. So, all right, go ahead. Okay, real quick. That is our group. Can everybody see that all right out there? Looks good on Zoom? Looks all right? Okay. What are they seeing on Zoom? Are they seeing this? Are they seeing me?
Depends on the view they select. They can either see the PowerPoint or the presenter.
Okay. Yeah, y'all want to look at the PowerPoint, not me. Okay. Anyway, this is our group. We just took that, what, about a week ago maybe? In front of our Christmas tree down the hall.
Monday.
It's about 19 of us, full-time employees, and everybody looks real nice in that picture. Let's wait till you work with some of these people. No, we have a very good group. Sometimes we get along, sometimes we don't. It's family, you know? Okay, so a little bit of the agenda, what we're going to cover today. We're already just a little bit behind in time, and I'm going to try and cut mine down fairly short and
They're getting
talk
an
about
echo.
introduction and kind of choices, how we're organized, what we are. There are a lot of different types of co-ops as far as different company structures. Talk about a little bit about legal requirements, kind of some checklists. Have a few minutes with who we have contracts. Our MC, marketing, client engagement, talk a little bit about growing the business. A little bit of information about job or contracting job. And then we'll close. We're trying to get everybody out on time. We're trying to get caught up and get things back on track here a little bit. Well, all right. Is that any better, Joanne, or anybody that's listening?
I'm not getting it.
Oh, you're not getting anything?
No, I'm not getting the background.
Okay. Okay. I hope that you guys continue to chat and make comments on the Zoom, and there is continued feedback also. This isn't a perfect science. We're already, this is probably our third or fourth time to do this. We're getting better and better all the time, but we're learning every single time. Let's please let that door close slowly without slamming it also. I know that's got to be annoying, some of those noises back there also. Okay, so this is a little bit about what's that? Oh, that was the echo? Can you still hear now? Can you still hear with the microphone right here? Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. Let's take. Yeah, okay. Okay, well, good. Okay, technical difficulties, we're getting there. So I'm gonna keep coming up here. All right. So we welcome, this, again, we're just saying welcome. The contract's a little broader than just HCDE. I'll talk about HCDE in just a few minutes. And some of you guys, probably a lot of you guys may or may not know even what HCDE is, but every one of us working for Choice Partners, our paycheck at the bottom says HCDE, or the elongated version. But these are the guys that we deal with: school districts, charter schools, counties, municipalities, colleges, universities, basically government and not-for-profit entities are the ones that use our contract. Did you go to Exxon and use our contract? No. So, we're a government, not-for-profit. Win, win, win. We'll talk about that in just a second also. What do we mean by win, win, win? Is everybody in here? I just want to ask, and again, I know Zoom, you can't really see it, but does everybody really know what this triangle is describing? Just raise your hand if you do. I'm not going to call on you. I'm just wondering. Okay, so a lot of people are like, all I know is that the co-op, my boss told me to come and sell more. And I want to learn a little bit about selling more. I get it. I get it. Basically, the way our contracts and any cooperative contract is structured, more or less, is there's three parts to the equation. There's obviously you as the vendor. There's customer. You call them a customer. We call them a Choice Partners member. Same thing. The guys that pay you. And then the third part is Choice Partners. How do we get involved? Basically, all we are is a method of procurement. Like I said earlier, we want to make them save time and money, make it easier for them to buy your goods and services. How do we do that? We're a governmental agency, or all the other co-ops have what's called a lead agency, which is another governmental agency. Some other co-ops may be a not-for-profit. They may be a for-profit. They could be another governmental agency. I mean, they could be structured a lot of different ways, but in order to have a quote unquote cooperative contract, they have to have what's called a lead agency, which Choice Partners / HCDE is the same company. We are all government employees. We're in teacher retirement system, just like all the K-12 and people like that. So we're government employees. We are a governmental entity. We execute something called an interlocal agreement, ILA, which is a government-to-government contract allowing them to use our contract. You guys responded to a contract of ours. We multi-award. And I always like to use the term either a fishing license, hunting license, whatever you want to call it. It allows you to go out and talk to members and sell your goods or services, and hopefully make it easier for them to do it at a good competitive price. Not the cheapest price in the world, but a very good competitive price. There's also other things. The PO is what's executed, or job order, or even a separate master services agreement. If you're in technology, people call it the EULA, end user license agreement, EULA, things like that, can also be executed separately from our contract by and between the member and the vendor. So this is kind of just like a little visual of how things work in the co-op world. There's that extra little piece at the top that makes it easier for you guys to go out and not have to bid things out on the street. It's already been done, obviously legally and competitively. Those two aspects have already been satisfied through the use of our contracts. It's always a not to exceed price. Say you're selling a widget for $1 and you're dealing with a large entity, maybe around here, maybe a city of Houston, HISD, and they say, oh, I'll buy that widget for 95 cents. You have the option to look at the 95 cents and go from there. You can't sell it at $1.05 if you responded to our contract at $1. So it's a not to exceed price. All right. So I've said HCDE a couple of different times. Just another quick show of hands. I know not the virtual folks, but does anybody know what HCDE is? And I'm not going to call on you. I'm just curious. Okay, not that many. Okay, but that's fine. So we've got the description up here. HCDE is it's a governmental entity. It's called Harris County Department of Education. At one time, there are 254 counties in the state of Texas. There were 254 county departments of education. Of course, the HCDE was founded quite a while back here, 1889. So they've been around for a little while. And out of 254, 253 have gone by the wayside. It's the only one left in Texas, and we do a lot of different things in Texas. Probably some of the things are similar to what you might see from your ESCs if you're K through 12 in Texas, Education Service Center. Other states, a lot of similar type things. But one of the divisions within HCE is us, Choice Partners. We're also a taxing authority here in the area, and obviously located in Harris County, which is basically Houston and surrounding areas. This is a little synopsis of who HCDE is and some of the various divisions they have. And it's kind of some of the, we call it some of the pillars, some of the larger, more visible areas within HCDE: adult education, case for kids, after school programs and things like that for kids. They like to say it's the time between the kids going to school and getting home. It's kind of helping them, take care of them, educating them, computer, golf, piano lessons, things like that. Head Start for a lot of the youngsters before pre-K basically. Special schools, we have a lot of schools, not a lot, 4 schools maybe for adjudicated youth with special needs or things of that nature. And then we also have therapy services, which is very, very prevalent, especially in the schools in and around the Houston area, with a extremely large majority of the therapists in schools in and around this area being supplied by HCDE. And you see all the ones on the bottom. There are some other ones: records management, a lot of teacher certification. We have Center for Secure Schools. I don't want to. I could probably talk about this for 30 minutes. We don't have that kind of time. But then Choices is one of the other divisions within HCDE. So I've told you I'd try and make my part a little quick, and I hope I did. And this can be interactive, either online, or if you have questions here, don't be shy about raising your hand, asking questions. Be happy to talk or address them. When you ask them, we'll probably stand back up here and repeat them, because obviously online they won't be able to hear them as well. Is my voice projecting all right over here? Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, we just didn't want that extra echo. So now we're going to turn over legal requirements, and that's going to be presented by Michael Robes, one of our contract managers here at Choice. And he'll get us back on track. He'll be extremely informative. He'll never miss a word, and he'll get us going perfectly again. All right. Oh yeah, you might want that. Okay.
Can you hear me on the Zoom? Testing? Okay. I'm not a very loud speaker, so I apologize. If I need to speak louder, just let me know. But I'm doing the legal requirements. I'm not going to go into depth on the laws. We have a PowerPoint that shows you what laws we procured, so you can have your contract. But what I will say is that, now you have a Choice Partners contract. Does everybody know their contract number that's here? Okay. If you don't know your contract number, you can go to our website, type in your vendor's name, and it'll show you your contract. These are the laws that we've had to follow in order to get to your contract. Whenever you're working with a governmental entity, if they're spending over $50,000 in a commodity in their aggregate year, which usually goes from September through August. If it's over $50,000, they have to follow these procurement laws. So that now you have your Choice Partners contract, you can let those members know that you work with that, I have this contract, it's been done through Choice Partners, it's legally procured, it's following 44.013, it's following all the FEMA guidelines, EDGAR, CR2 CFR 200, That's one of the main ones that a lot of the members are familiar with, especially with school districts. And the school districts, when you're working with them or you're working with a government entity, something I like to let you know is you're more than likely not going to be working with the procurement department. You're probably going to be working with the department that's going to use the service or purchase the goods. So when you are working with them and you're providing a quote, if you can at least put your choice partner's contract number on there and give them the contract pricing, when that department goes to their purchasing department, it's going to be an easy sale for you guys. That's one of the things that we get a lot, is just making sure that when you're working with the member, you're using the choice partners contract and they're getting the contract pricing. We have several contracts in food. We have contracts in technology, contracts basically in every commodity. If for some reason you're working with the member and they need assistance, you can always guide them to our website. All the information is there. Our supply catalog is one of the things that we're known for here at Choice Partners. It's got about 1,100 hard bid line items. The lowest bid quantity is what we go by for that. I don't know if any of you guys are on the supply catalog, but we're having one awarded next year. It's something else that we do that's very good for Choice Partners. As you're going through the procurement process and have your contract, you've already been awarded. If you haven't gotten your award letter, it'll be coming in the next couple months. Some of the things that you have to remember with it is doing your monthly report, making sure you're submitting that on a monthly basis. If you can't do it monthly, I believe Jan works with certain vendors that do large sales. You might be able to do a report that's quarterly. Does everybody know what their admin fee for their contract is? It's listed in your contract, and anything that you turn in for sales, once you've been paid, then the admin fee is going to be applicable. And Jan Arnold, if you don't know already, is going to be the one that sends you your invoice. One of the things that she would want me to tell you is to make sure you always turn in monthly reports. If you don't remember, I know our assistant director, Joanne Nichols, sends you out a reminder. Just make sure you turn in your reports monthly. If you don't have it, you can get this from the website. You can log on with your credentials and you can get the report to basically turn in your sales. We have one for commodities and then we have one for the job. So just find out what your contract is and pick the correct template. And then we also have one for food. That's all that I had. I'm going to turn it over to Tricia so she can talk about the food contracts.
Good morning, everybody. I talk louder than Michael does. I have less to say than him even. But my name is Tricia Presticomo, and I handle all the food contracts that we do at Choice Partners. So anything, not just food, cafeteria supplies, chemicals, anything for cafeterias. Okay. And I just want to introduce so y'all see their face if you work with them, because we do have some food vendors on. This is Laura Spray, Melissa Wilder, and we also have Emily. She is not here today, but I want to, so you can see their face, you know who they are. If you're here and you're a food member, please, a vendor, please make sure that you come up and talk to one of us and introduce yourself. Okay? Y'all can sit down now. Anyways, I was just gonna, a couple things. There's not a lot. You can see here's all of our food cafeteria related contracts. We also do a show in October. And I know it's a long way from now because we just had it a couple of months ago, but we already have it scheduled. So October, I had to write it down. October 13th of 2022 is the annual food show. So basically the food show is for food service directors and their staff. Sometimes they're superintendents, but we also have students attend. Then the next day on the 14th is the vendor exhibit, which is everybody else besides food. So, and it's usually tends to be like purchasing directors, their staff. So mark your calendars because as an awarded vendor, we really wish that you attended a great event. Actually, this year we were a little worried with COVID, but actually both events were really great. And it's at the Humboldt Civic Center. And this year was our first year we did it back to back. We're going to try it again this next year. So unless it doesn't work again, we're going to keep it like it is. And the only other thing I wanted to talk about just on the food side is for those of you that are food vendors, we also are required to deal with USDA and TDA, Texas Department of Agriculture. So there's a lot of other policies and procurement guidelines that our members have to follow. So we make sure all of our contracts, all of our RFPs have all that in there for when our members get audited. And I think that's it. I told you I was quick. Anybody have any questions here online? Nope. Okay. I appreciate. Oh, and Janet, here's Janet.
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Because it doesn't sound real well up here. And everyone online, thank you for your time and for coming. What we're going to talk about now, let me see, they said forward and back. Ta-da, is how to grow your business. This is why you came today, part of it, not saying the other part isn't important, but you want to know what you're going to do with this new contract your company has gotten for you and made the arrangement. So it's really important to find a way that you can integrate it into your plan for sales, share it with your sales team, those of your staff that need to know both inside sales and outside sales. So one of the things you go is like, okay, where do I begin? What's up? So as salespeople, you ask yourself, where is the first place you start? Bird in the hand, right? Something you already know, somebody that has already been familiar with your sales product, with your service, that sort of thing. That's fine as long as they are a governmental entity. So to be a member of the co-op, you have to be like a school district, university, college, municipality, county, nonprofit. So there are some hospitals, there are some credit unions, few other odd people, when I say odd, out of the norm, but those are the only people that can be potential customers for you utilizing your contract. So if you have anybody that falls in that category and you've already been selling to them, definitely go to them and say, we have a new avenue. Let us revamp or relook at what we've already done with you and see if there's a way to save you more money through this. Or you could say when your new contract comes up, or if you have some new product coming out, let me tell you to go through this avenue. It's good. Now, this is the thing you have to think about. Are they already a member? If they're not, it's very easy and at zero cost to the potential customer and potential member. They just have to download an interlocal agreement if they're in the state of Texas. If you're a vendor that's been awarded a national contract with Choice, then it's up to that entity to determine whether their state, county, or local government would require them to have interstate agreement. We have both available online. So all they have to do is go to a member button, want to become a member. And when they register, then they have the option to download it if they need it. It is at no cost. So once it's signed by them and returned to us, they're immediately able to utilize your contract. Okay. But don't let any funds change hands until after we, Choice Partners in our office, has received their signed copy. We'll take it to our board. It'll be countersigned and approved, and then we'll return a copy to them. But we change the language of the contract so that it doesn't hinder your business, and you can move forward immediately once they've signed and returned it to us. There's another thing, members, non-members, we talked about that. If they're already a member, that's great. You can just say, hey, we're a new vendor and you can come use this. Let me show you what we've got now. But you don't want to forget about referrals. We all know that this is a great way to start your supply chain, keep that funnel open and flowing with people. So ask anybody, and whether it's this entity A talking to entity B and saying, hey, did you know they've got this, or you ought to check them out. Don't forget to do the pipeline within a single entity, like a school district. If you work with them, you might be working with the purchasing department right now, or maybe you started with IT because we have a lot of technology contracts. But the two can talk to each other, or maybe they don't. So it's up to you to teach your sales staff, go to all the different departments within that one division and just keep your pipeline open of people that are, one, aware of you, and two, know how to utilize the contract. Sometimes we as salespeople have to train them how to do that. And you say, what are you talking about? Yes, I'm in marketing now, but my history is all about sales. I've been in sales almost all my life. So I'm trying to hear it and see it from your point of view, and then to provide answers how to utilize our contract that way. So can you collaborate with other choice vendors? Most definitely you can. So if we had a member call us and say, maybe it was a school district or a jail where we've had a roof leak and the roof needs to be repaired. When a choice vendor goes to that member and says, oh, let me help you out with your roofer, and you start your project, and you look underneath and maybe the floor underneath that roof needs to be repaired. Or if you're in a jail or a school and you go, I can do the roof, but did you know this is over your cafeteria? Do you know there's food contracts with Choice? It's okay for y'all to talk to each other and say, hey, I'm on this job and it looked like they need to replace ovens in their kitchen because it got leaked on. That's always good business. That's just you helping one another, and you're going to get a return on that. Just remind everybody, don't forget to put your contract number that Michael was saying, everybody should know their contract number. Put that on every quote that you give to a member, because it's not just for you, it's for them. This is one thing Choice stands for, and that's the triangle Jeff was telling you. We want them to be audit proof. We want them to feel comfortable using our contracts so that they can stay audit proof. And having that contract number on there that says CP or Choice Partners and then the number, they get it on their quote, then they put it on their PO or however they purchase. Then if they're audited, they're covered, and they'll go, oh, I don't mind doing business with them. They help look out for my back and I'm taking care of business. So this is how we try and educate y'all to just kind of work together and just keep working with our members. So one of the first things you'll want to do is go check out some of the resources we have for you. And the first thing is to go to our vendor login page. And there is a line right here. Those of you that are online maybe can see a little clear, but if not, it says set up a new account. Please don't use that. That is for our members. For a vendor, if you want to, okay, let me put it this way. When your company first responded to our RFP for to be awarded and to answer the bid, there was one person that created a login. Now it's up to your company to determine if they want to have any more logins or only that one. If your company says yes, it's okay for you as an inside admin or a salesperson to have a login, then what you do is you go to the eBid system, look for, look for profile, and then from profile, go to add a user. And then you'll fill in all your profile information there and you can be added. So either way, you have two ways to do it. We're not saying you have to. Each company decides on their own whether or not they want to have multiple logins. Okay. So when you get that login, this is where you're going to put it right here. And then you hit login. And then you come to this page that I just love. It's like your guide. It's your map to everything on our website, the vendor dashboard. So there's multiple buttons that we have here with some information. The first button top left is view vendors. This is where you're going to see who else has been awarded, what categories they are. So like we were talking about networking, that's where you can get your information. Here is where you can pick up a list of our current members. Now, let me tell you why that's important to you. You can download that as a PDF and you can send it out in your organization. So if you have traveling sales reps, if you have inside sales, they're going to need to know that. If you're inside staff for doing accounts payable, accounts receivables, they're going to need to know, is it a member? Is it not a member? Should we have gone through the contract? Things like that. It's very, very, like you can print it off if you need to, but I'm just saying it's very flexible that way. So you can send it around and use it. Or if you have a rep that's out on the road and they've got their own mobile device or a laptop or iPad, let them say, just go right here with your login and you've got access to it. This is my favorite button because that's us. This is marketing. I am half marketing and half choice partners. So what we do with our division in marketing and client engagement is support the choice vendors, we support the members, and we do whatever kind of collateral and exhibits and trainings like this. So when you go to the marketing resource page, I'm going to show you that in a minute. Right here, it says partners messages. I want to let you know, and I believe Michael alluded to this, that we do request that be a monthly reporting from all of our vendors. Don't go, oh, one more thing. Paperwork drives business, right? But we make it as easy as possible. You can go to this page right here and you can download the report form. If not, like he said, we send out an email monthly from Joanne that says it's that time of month, it's 15th of the month, we need your feedback. Let us know what projects you're working on or if you've closed something, that sort of thing. But to hit the marketing resources page, oh, hello. Let's try again. Thank you. This is just the top half of the page. So it's a lot, but we're going to break it down that way. And I wanted you to see, we have several links in here that you can go to. How many of you in here are familiar with working with the TEA 20 regions in Texas? Okay, then let me explain. TEA is Texas Education Association. They have broken the state of Texas into 20 different regions. Occasionally, we refer to those regions. We're in Region 4, which is the Greater Harris County area. There's like over Beaumont areas, Region 5, down the valleys, Region 1. When you start getting up North Texas, that's where a bunch of the others are. So we put that map there so you can see it in case somebody refers to themselves that way, or if somebody is trying to connect with you and you go, well, I'm over in this region, you can quick look it up and figure out where it is. But there's tips for marketing to governmental entities. This might be new to some of you. If you're used to doing B2B, just remember, you cannot do that with a co-op contract, okay? So this will give you some tips. And right here is another place where you can pick up a list of the members as well as a quick list of the vendors. So we try and have it in several places. So if you remember, where was that, you know, you can find it in different locations. Okay, so I wanted to show you, there's also become a featured vendor. Now, one of the things we do in marketing to support choice and the vendors is we put out a monthly newsletter. It keeps you informed of the new members we add, the contracts added, but we also put information in there like recently, Choice was re-awarded or reapproved through the UT system. And now you can sell to any one of the colleges within the UT system. That's huge because they're all over the place and keep growing. So you want to make sure that you take advantage of that if it's there. So that will put news like that in, but we also have a lead article and we generally like to feature a vendor. Now, the vendor that we feature has been with us for a while so that you have completed at least 3 or more projects with 3 different members. We don't really want like 3 projects in one vendor, in one member, which can happen, but we like 3 different ones. And then what you will do, you'll say, yes, please feature me. You go to your contract manager. So before you leave today, please ensure you are aware of who your contract manager is. Jeff, everybody but Christy is here today, correct? So make sure at lunch break or however y'all get out and meet them. And if not, just go to your landing page and the name will be there. So you want to know who that is. If you tell them you want to be featured, they're going to check your website for several things. You have to ensure that the CP seal, and this is what we call the seal here, do not use, if you see a rectangular logo, do not use it. This is what vendors use, is our seal. That has to be on your website, and that has to link back to your personal landing page within our website. Now, don't just link it back to our main, because what you're doing by linking it to your landing page is driving business directly to you. Those are warm leads where people are looking you up. So that's awesome. Once you do that, then your contract manager will give you the link. You have to fill it out and you'll attach your marketing collateral. And it says, I want a list of all the members and their contact information. And we'll give you that list if you provide the marketing collateral. Now, let me say this. You can have marketing collateral that is a flyer, or it could be an email. Even if you're going to do a phone campaign, we ask that you share the transcript with us, because new vendors and sometimes some of our existing vendors have misused the terminology. They'll call themselves, I'm a member, look at me, come use me. And like, no, not really. You're a vendor. You're talking to the member. So we want to help make sure that your language is right. We also want to make sure that you have the CP seal in there and that you have a little blurb in there that talks about the legality of how Choice awards their contracts. And I can provide you with all that. But you do have to provide us something. Okay? And then we will take it into consideration. We can't say the exact month that you apply for it and ask to be awarded that you're going to be a vendor, because we might have another story we need to do. But you're definitely in the lineup, and you start with your contract manager. So these are the things, again, we just talked about, the seal being displayed on your landing page. We have said you could just put it on your home page, but it's best to be on your landing page. And it also says in your contract, so if you are the person who did the e-bid and got the contract back, please be aware we ask that you participate in conferences, 5 a year, 5 or more a year. Yes, we had COVID, and 2020 was a hiccup to everybody. We had to readjust. So what we're asking now is, if you wonder how to do that, on our website, on the homepage under About Us, there'll be upcoming events, and you can click that and see where we're going to be. You can either come to places where we are, or you might find places to exhibit that are relative specific to your particular line of business. Okay. We're not going to say no, but when you go, be sure to have that CP seal. You'll get it today. It looks like a placard, a 12 by 12 with an easel back, and just have that on your exhibit table somewhere when you go out, and that'll help you drive business and open it up. We can help with a marketing plan if you like, and then it's optional if you'd like to coordinate with us, excuse me, to use statewide publications to do advertising and do targeted emails. We can help you. This is part of the marketing resource page down below. So you saw the top part. The second one is showing you how you come under there. And this is where you get the seal. If you're wondering, well, how do I tell my marketing staff inside? This is where you come down to this section, and it has guidelines for using the seal. And then underneath that, there's actually 2 different views you can get. One that actually has it, the CP seal has a square and you just put it, or one where it's no white background, and then you can float it around wherever it looks good on your stationery or on your website. Am I pointing it wrong? There we go. Now, we just talked about becoming a featured vendor, and we went through the things that you need to do, but I also wanted to say that you might just want to do a marketing campaign on your own. So what you could do is, when you have, we have another list, another link, I should say, that where you can request a list of our members' contacts. It'll include their email, their phone, and their address. So you can do snail mail campaign, you can do a phone campaign, or you can do e-blast. So any way to get that is where you have to have that marketing collateral too. Okay. And then to be a featured vendor, one of the things we're going to request are some pictures. So we're not just going to write up a long story, because words are a lot, people like to look at pictures. We'll need landscape layout of a picture to be the lead. Then you can have 2 or 3 others, depending on how much verbiage we have. And anything that would accentuate a project you've done or a product that you're wanting to highlight. It's really fabulous. And if you go to the homepage, and again, About Us, and you go down there to Current News, I think it's called, then you can actually see some of our Leaders' Choice. We're working on getting them uploaded in a different format, but they're there. So I would say that's a great way to stay in touch with your contract manager and help move you forward. But again, to be a featured vendor, you need to have a few projects completed under your belt. So we talked about the contact list, and this is what we'll do. I'm not going to review what you say about your own product unless I see grammatical errors, or unless there's a lot of run-on sentences. I might give you a few, heads up about, you might want to think about this or change that. But I am going to look for how you laid out information on Choice, make sure the seal is there, that sort of thing. So we're not being restrictive. We're just saying make sure it moves smoothly and shows your relationship with us. Now, I want to take a few minutes to show you what it looks like from the member side, because even though you need to know how to utilize this when you're doing your business part of your job, the sales part only goes smoother and gets you greater ROI if you know how to train the people that you're reaching out to, your potential customers. So they have the same kind of login that you do. And if you go to somebody and they're already a member, but they don't have a login, teach your people to just set them right here where it does say set up a new account. That's for our members. And it's real easy to go through. And if they have any trouble, we have an 800 number, 888, right? 866. Yeah. It's 8677. I'm sorry. It's been a long year. Okay. 877. And then that number is listed on our contact, so they can call there for help, or you can call me. Our phone number is all listed on there along with our emails. We'd be glad to help. So apologies, Joanne, because Joanne generally answers our 877 number. But we want them to go there, and then when they do, they have their own dashboard. So when they have a dashboard, these are all buttons that are relative to them, but you need to know, because if you see what they see, then you know how to be ready to answer their questions. They can get a contract list right away, just like y'all could see what vendors are there. And this can be downloaded. And when I train with the members, we tell them, download it, pass it out to all your divisions and departments, share with everybody. Here they can see this will take them to an electronic version of this list. And then from here, they can go to everybody's individual landing page. So you want to make sure that you work with your contract manager to have your description on your landing page the most up-to-date, and how would you say, not just easily read, but with information that's going to be relative to people to use your information. Yes, you can say, I would rather say this on there than what I see up there. Maybe the person that's responsible for that from your company might have just picked something and threw it in there to respond to the e-bid, but now you want to go back and fine tune it and have it say something different. You get with your contract manager, they'll help you do that. Now, this is the button that you really, really want to be aware of, and it's the Get a Quote button. And the Get a Quote button is going to be a very warm lead for you. Our Get a Quote button actually has an option for our members only to shop from any of our awarded vendors in the categories that they might need. And then down here, we also have the supply catalog. I didn't see any hands raised, but I might have missed them. If there's any vendor in here that's been awarded or interested in being a part of the supply catalog, this button is where our members will go, and it'll open up to the 11 specific types of contracts that we award in there for 2-year contracts. Now, this is a landing page of one of our vendors, and I just want you to see what it looks like. Just imagine your name here. You're going to see your own website here. So it's not like everything's going to be CP, CP, CP. It does have your information, but if they come here first, they're going to read your description. And this is where I was saying about the partner. You want to make sure that that's current to what you want to say. And then they can get all their information about placing an order. This has been very valuable to many of our members. It has a due diligence download, which gives them the bid tab, the eval form, the affidavit, the advertisement. These are all the paperwork they need to put with their PO. So we try and be very transparent and make it very available so it's an easy, smooth transition to close the sale. But then you see over here, they have the contract number ready to go with them, how many terms, if it's awarded for 1 year with any renewals. This helps make your customer comfortable with doing business and go, oh yeah, you got a lot of renewals, you know, it'll be good, we're ready to go. This we added because we wanted the member to be able to reach out to the CP contract manager, say, tell me a little bit about this company. I've heard of it or I haven't heard of it. What kind of response have you had from them? Are you comfortable? So we share good news with that. But then there's another side over here where we list all of your information for contact. I'll get to that in just a minute, but the due diligence was really important. I wanted you to see this is what it looks like for that Get a Quote. They go up there and they select a contract type. Then they come down here and they pick which vendors they want. And all of this is laid out just like our list of awarded contracts that we put out monthly. Here's where they describe what they're looking to get quoted. And after they fill out their contact information, please note, down in the lower left corner, it says product, service, need by date. This lets you know as your estimator, or if you're the person that responds yourself, that if you can't meet their deadline, don't waste their time, but keep the door open and you can respond back to them. Thank you very much. I'd love to do it, but the refrigerator you want is sitting on that ship that hadn't gotten out of the port, which we all know are out there. It just hasn't been cut up. He said, but I have exactly what you need. Can you extend the time? Do you see how that's a way to open? I don't need to do sales training. Y'all are very smart people, but that's how we used to do it. You just got to make sure that you're not trying to ram something down their throat they don't want, but you've got it. Let me help you if you need different time. The other thing is we gave them the option in the lower right-hand corner to attach pictures or writing. So if they had a refrigerator they wanted and they had the specs on it already, they don't need to retype it up here. They'll just say, please provide a quote for the refrigerator per attached specs. See how that makes it easy for them? So they're going to use it more often. You as a vendor can go right through that and go, oh, gee, I do this, I don't do that, or there, whoop, and find something that works, right? So it's great. Or they could send you pictures. You know, if we had somebody who had to do a floor repair and they wanted to match a particular kind, pine wood to you might look like one thing, but pine wood flooring to somebody else might be, well, I'm gonna have a gloss, I'm gonna do, you know, where the slats show, I'm gonna do 4-inch or 5-inch, whatever. So I'm just saying, we try and make it very amenable to both you as a vendor and to our members so that you both can work to get a better result in your quotes. Now, this is the page I was telling you. It's on, if you go to our homepage and you hit About Choice Partners, these are all your options. And when you hit events, this is where you can go to find places to exhibit, like we ask you to, okay? Now, we have FAQs and we have some events. Like I said, the events, the presentations, we have many things here. But Contact Us is where you're going to be able to see our list. So this is just a picture of what the FAQs were. But here is where you see another landing page for a different vendor. And this is what I couldn't put all in one slide the first time. Over here on the right, you're going to see all of the contact information for your company. Now, I think because of space, we limit it to 3. If you need more, then you have to work that out, but it doesn't go. But I'm going to tell you this, make very, very sure that this first person listed is an email that gets looked at regularly, not just once a week, once a month, daily, because that's where the quote requests are going to go. When somebody hits get a quote, we pulled that email and used it for each vendor. Okay. So you want to make sure if it's a person that left or they're on maternity leave, and don't just let their emails go into la la land. You know, you're losing a warm lead if you do that. So this is some really good, helpful information that you know that's there when you're out or your salespeople are out. Take them to your landing page and show them, this is all the information we have. What other questions can I answer for you? So this is the last thing I want to show you. The same thing under About Us, Contact Us. Anybody's name turns into an email. Otherwise, our phone number is right here. And do not hesitate to use that. We're all available to you today, but also when you leave, you're going to say, who was that person that did this or that? We've got it all listed and it's ready for y'all to use. Are there any questions? Okay, well, I just have a few takeaways, and that's make sure that you share to use the vendor dashboard, review the marketing resources page, and call me if you have any questions. Share how a member can get a login. Let me tell you how many of our vendors, when we started training the vendors to learn how to do that, and then they shared with the potential customer, our member, it just kind of shot up the amount of interaction, communication flowed. So little things, they don't have to know everything about the website, but those kinds of things help their impact a lot more. And the contract managers have all the forms that you need, either to be a featured vendor or to get a marketing contact list. Now, in here, I'm not sure who is or who isn't. The last thing is, if you're not a construction vendor and you're not going to stay for the rest of our presentation virtually or in person, we need you to go to a table that has the table tent or take this survey. So we're going to stop for just a second and we ask for your feedback. If all of y'all are going to stay, this is wonderful. Come have some lunch if you're in person. If you're online and you're going to stay, you can wait till the end. It's the same survey, but we need to be sure that we get feedback from you so that we're answering every question that you might have. Thank you very much for your time. Our next speaker will be Stephen Kendrick, and he will cover the job order contracting contracts.
Okay. Just like I do. All right, hopefully everyone can hear me online. If not, type it into the comments, let us know. You got the link, Joe, where I can move on? All right. All right, I'm about to get started. Joanne Nichols is supposed to be posting the link to the survey in the comments section. Okay, good morning. Okay, y'all are a little awake. Not a lot awake, but a little awake. My name is Stephen Kendrick. I'm Senior Manager of Facilities Planning here at Harris County Department of Education. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, I started out at the age of 15 working as an electrician's apprentice. And I stayed in general construction for 9 years before moving on to school business. I'm in my 12th year of school business. I actually started out with a school district on the maintenance side. I got recruited by Choice Partners, went into their contract compliance. I did that for 3 years before promoting up into my current position. So I've actually had the privilege of sitting in the contractor seat, which is likely you. I've sat in the maintenance and construction guy seat, and I've sat in the purchasing seat. So I kind of have the privilege of seeing all three sides of how that dynamic could work or should work or how it shouldn't work. We're going to discuss job order contracting in this section. The thing there is that likely if you have a JOC contract, or maybe you don't think you have a JOC contract, but you have a maintenance or service contract, it likely has a JOC component to it. It's very important to understand the differences, because that lets you know how that contract needs to be utilized to keep your client legal and compliant, right? So today I'm going to discuss why job order contracting. Why is that important? Why are we talking about it? Especially if you're a single trade like roofing or HVAC or electrical. Maintenance versus construction. For all of you vendors that live in the real world, the definition is very different than the legal interpretation, okay? So when I tell you what maintenance versus construction is and the factors to consider, I'm speaking from a legal perspective. This is what the governmental entity is supposed to take into consideration when they decide which type of contract to use, okay? Understand that construction contracts have very different requirements than maintenance contracts from a legal standpoint. Concepts including trade JOC versus regular JOC, and then quoting versus bidding, and then how to legally use a Choice Partners JOC contract. And I'm going to say that 98% of everything I cover is based on law, statute, case law, OSHA interpretations, Attorney General interpretations. They're not actually specific to Choice Partners. If you have other cooperative contracts, if you have contracts direct with other entities, these same principles apply, okay? So why does legal compliance matter? If you recall, just a minute ago, I said different procurement rules apply. So contracts not properly procured can be voided or unenforceable. Officials and officers who violate procurement statutes can be subject to criminal penalties. Public works contracts, so construction contracts, may trigger things like bonding, prevailing wages, liquidated damages, retainage, right? We don't see those things in maintenance contracts. And these legal mistakes can delay projects, jeopardize budgets, result in cost overruns to your client, which they don't appreciate, and subject the governmental entity to financial liability to vendors and subcontractors, right? If they do time and material and they say, well, this is maintenance, and a subcontractor or a subcontractor or a supplier doesn't get paid, and they failed to get the bond and it goes to court and the judge says this was construction and construction law states that you were responsible for getting this bond, guess what happens? Your client is now on the hook for paying for that project twice. They have to pay you and the subcontractor, right? If they didn't hold any retainage back and they paid you up front, and then the subcontractor comes back later and says, I never got paid, they're on the hook twice now. So why are we talking about job order contracting? So when I looked at the sign-in sheet, the majority of the vendors I saw that signed up for this are single trade jobs. That means that you perform a single trade service such as roofing, electrical, mechanical, but you also have a job component to your contract because a lot of the work that you're performing, you don't realize it, but the state of Texas considers it construction, okay? So here's the deal. If providing construction services, time and material is not a permissible IDIQ delivery method. So what that means is any contract procured today without a formal scope of work for work done tomorrow, next week, next month, has to go through job order contracting in Texas. Okay? That's the only IDIQ delivery method in the state of Texas. It only allows a unit price book and a coefficient. It does not allow for time and material. If you notice at the bottom of my slides, I referenced the code, okay? I referenced the case law. I referenced the AG opinion or OSHA opinion. Trust but verify, you can go back and verify everything that I'm telling you today. This is Texas Education Code 44.031. That's where K through 12 and colleges start. Universities are Texas Education Code 51. Cities and counties are Texas Government Code 252, 262, and 271. They all, for construction, with the exception of universities, go to Texas Government Code 2269. So basically, where their purchasing laws are housed, when it gets into a construction procurement, they're all go to the same place and all the same laws apply. Okay, so what is job order contracting, right? State of Texas has defined it as a procurement method used for maintenance, repair, alteration, renovation, remediation, or minor construction of facilities when the work is of a reoccurring nature, but the delivery times, types, and quantities of work required are indefinite. Okay, so that says times, types, and quantities are indefinite, that's IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. Okay, that means we don't know. We did the procurement today, but we don't know what we're going to need. But we put it in place today for all those unknowns that come up in the future. So we have a legal way to purchase them. If you notice, the job order contracting in Texas allows you to do both maintenance and minor construction. It is not intended for major construction. It is not intended for professional services. So you should not be providing architectural or engineering services. You shouldn't be providing test and balance services. Those are supposed to be procured as a professional service as well. Maintenance versus construction. Okay, if you look, this interpretation actually came from OSHA back in 2003. So this isn't anything new, but it's probably going to be the first time that you hear about it. If you've worked with any school district or governmental entity, you've heard that term like for like, right? Well, it's like for like. I can replace that. A 300-ton chiller, and I replaced it with a new 300-ton chiller. It's like for like. They're both trained. Except that when they gave the interpretation of like for like, they said not new or upgraded. When you replace a chiller, are you maintaining it? Or are you replacing it with a new chiller that is upgraded because the technology has changed? They're more energy efficient. They operate off controls. We know that they're supposed to be engineered before being put in, right? It's over 8,000. It's electrical or mechanical or legally requires engineering. There should be some kind of test and balance on that. It has to meet new energy code. That is not maintenance. That falls under construction. Same with an AC unit. Does a unit 25 or 30 years old use the same Freon that the units of today use? No, it's new and it's upgraded. Scale and complexity of the project, and I'm going to discuss the physical size of objects being worked on as well in this example, but let me pick on roofers this time. If I'm replacing half a roof on a 10 by 10 shed, it's just shingles. Is that a very large scope of work? No. Is it very complex? No. Now I take that exact same example, half a roof, but I'm going to apply it to a 620,000 square foot high school. Did the physical size of my object being worked on dramatically increase? I'm going back with the exact same like-for-like roofing system, but my physical size has dramatically increased. What about my scale and complexity? It's over 20,000 and you're supposed to have it engineered. Do we have penetrations? Do we have curbs we have to mop in? Do we have to ensure that that roof is going to drain properly? Yes. The complexity has dramatically increased. That would fall under construction. Okay. And these examples I'm giving you, these have actually gone to court and decisions have been made on this. Okay. I'm not going to say who they happened with, but we know from case law that those examples that I listed fall under construction. One last example. So a lot of y'all have seen governmental entities go into this BYOD initiative, bring your own device. The big initiative maybe 10 years ago, kind of disappeared a little bit. Then what happened? We got slammed with COVID and everyone had to learn from home and everybody needed their own device. And now those kids are coming back to school and the districts are upgrading their infrastructure to support the additional bandwidth. So they're running additional cabling through all their schools and buildings, right? They're lighting up fiber, dark fiber, they're lighting it up to increase their bandwidth. It's out of a technology department. It sounds like a service. But go back. Are we adding new cabling and are we upgrading that system to handle additional bandwidth? The answer is yes. Scale and complexity and physical size. Well, if we're doing it district-wide, that's pretty big in scale and complexity and physical size, okay? That was deemed to be construction. What happened is the school district considered that to be a technology project. They ran it time and material. The subcontractor did not get paid on that project. They went back for their payment bond. And the school district said, we didn't have to get it. It's a service. It's a technology project. It's not construction. Our construction department didn't handle it. It went to court. And the judge referred back to this letter and said, well, you provided a new upgraded system. It was large in scale and complexity. Physical size was extremely large. That was construction. You were responsible for getting that bond. And even though you already paid the general contractor in full, you now have to pay the subcontractor as well. And the school district lost that case. We saw that happen almost 2 more times during COVID. And luckily they were able to negotiate it and get those subcontractors paid. And neither one of those 2 incidences made it to court. Okay, so the win-win-win. I know Jeff kind of hit on this earlier, but I want to go back over it largely because it's a little bit different when you're talking about a JOC contract, right? So Choice Partners is actually just a department of Harris County Department of Education. Harris County Department of Education is a governmental entity. We have a governing body, a board that approves all of our contracts, whether we use them in-house or we use them through Choice Partners. State of Texas allows us to sign an interlocal agreement with other governmental entities, Choice Partners members, your clients, that says that we can share each other's contracts. That's all it says. I can use your contracts that you procured, you can use my contracts. What happens is that then Choice Partners finds out what the members' needs are, and they procure those contracts. They vet you based on a set of qualifications and price. They evaluate you. They make a recommendation to their board, and their board decides whether or not to award you. And that's how you got here today, okay? But now, you can go work directly with these members. But what's your contract between you and that member? Is it the PO? A lot of people say, yeah. PO is a contract. And if you're doing a commodity or a service, you're right. It could service the contract. In job order contract, all that PO is a guarantee to pay. It is not a contract. Texas Government Code 2269.410, and that reference will be in a later slide, states that it's a single document signed by both parties agreeing to the same scope of work. It does not say it's a handshake. It does not say it's a verbal agreement. It does not say it's a PO. It says it's a single document signed by both parties. And that's actually gone to court. School district said, look, we took their proposal, we added our PO on top of it. That's our single document with both parties' signatures. And the judge said, no, what you have is a proposal with the vendor's terms and conditions and their signature. And then you have your PO with conflicting terms and conditions and your signature. But I don't see a single document with the same terms and conditions with both parties agreeing to it. School district lost that case as well. So in job order contracting, when you're doing this, please understand that while many may consider that PO a contract, there should always be a supplemental contract, supplemental agreement that has, what constitutes a notice to proceed. What's substantial completion? What's final completion? What closeout documents do they want? Are they going to have liquidated damages? Are they going to hold retainage? All of those things. The Choice Partners contract, or any cooperative contract for that matter, they wrote it for any and every governmental entity out there. They didn't write it for your company, and they didn't write it specifically for your client. We don't know what their prevailing wage rates are. You think it's in our contract? Nope, we just say you have to use them. But we don't know what their prevailing wage rates are. Everyone can have a different rate. So there are certain things that need to be agreed upon up front in a supplemental agreement prior to going to work that are specific to your company, that governmental entity, and that project. Make sense? Jobs procured by purchasing cooperatives. And some of this actually isn't just specific to purchasing cooperatives, but here's the deal. The governmental entity gets to select the vendor without having to use its own competitive procurement process. Okay, job order contracting is the only construction delivery method permissible through a cooperative. Some of you may have other construction contracts with out-of-state cooperatives. I know at one time, I believe it was E&I had a design build contract. That was legal in their state where it was procured, but it's not legal here in Texas. Make sense? We're only allowed to use job order contracting. It only satisfies the procurement requirement, not the contracting requirement. So if you recall what I just said, we satisfy all the state's legal procurement requirements, federal procurement requirements, but it's not specific to the project and that entity. And that's where that contracting piece comes in. We satisfy the procurement, but you should still have a supplemental agreement that protects both parties. Statute requires a written and signed job order agreement between the governmental entity, and that's that reference that I mentioned a minute ago, where you can go look it up. You can just type in Texas state statutes. The first link that pops up, you click it. I forget what it is. You select Texas government code, or you just select government code. Then you select 2269, and then you select 410, and it'll take you right to it. It's the only method allowed to select contractors today for future unknown projects tomorrow. It's the only construction delivery method allowed that does not require an architect and engineering scope of work at the time the contract was advertised. So what is a JOC IDIQ estimate? Okay. Is it a lump sum proposal? Is it your scope of work with a not to exceed number on it? What the state of Texas says is it's a lump sum proposal substantially based on, and this part I'm kind of paraphrasing and not quoting, the unit price book and your legally bid coefficient. It does not say it's substantially based on whatever number you throw out in hope sticks. It does not say it's substantially based on your time, your labor rates and your material rates. It does not say it's a cost plus. It's a unit price book against a coefficient. Okay. The estimate should contain the contract number. Hopefully you're using Choice Partners and it's a Choice Partners contract number. But if not, there should always be another contract number on that quote. And here's the deal, and this is really to protect y'all, so hear me on this. If they bring you in and say, give me a quote, and you do not ask them what contract they want to use, and you give them a quote, and they send it to purchasing, and purchasing says, we don't have a contract with this company, are they on a co-op? And they say yes, and they throw the cooperative contract number on that contract, and you accept that PO, you are on the hook for that cooperative's fee, whether or not you knew it. State of Texas says if it's 50,000 in the aggregate, they don't need a contract. But here's the deal. In the aggregate is not per vendor. It's not per purchase. It's all of that commodity code for 12 months. What are the odds they're going to spend over 50,000? Your estimate might be 15, but what are the odds in the aggregate they're still going to hit 50? Pretty good. And their purchasing department's the one that tracks that. It's usually not them. If you don't find out what that procurement method is up front, then you might get hit with fees unexpectedly that you don't want to be hit with. And this happens regularly, and it's true for all cooperative contracts. It's not a Choice Partners thing. If they don't tell you a procurement method, you should reference the cooperative contract. That way they got to come back to you and say, hey, look, we want you to use something else. It opens up that conversation, but at least you're protected and you're not caught off guard. You know to account for a cooperative fee, you know, to provide the cooperative pricing, it's legally bid. What happens when they come back to you after you've quoted it off the street and they say, hey, I'm sorry, I got to throw this on Choice? One of two things happen. You either say, okay, well, maybe three things. You say, okay, it's still good. You say, oh, we'll throw 2% on that total and then it'll be good. Or you say, well, the pricing I gave you isn't the cooperative pricing. I got to go back and requote that. I will say that in my career, almost 100% of the time, I hear throw 2% on that and that's good. Here's the problem. You didn't bid your street price plus 2%. You bid a coefficient against the unit price book. So your pricing is not following the contract. If you never used RS means and a coefficient, you cannot substantiate your pricing in an audit. Does that make sense? I see some confused faces. Such as? Okay. Right. So the thing is, they get called out for a service. They go out and do the service. And then you said the PO audit that they provide you.
Yeah, the main guy may call in and come out and work on the ice machine. And then like by the time it gets to AP, they do the purchase order, they've got like maybe a job order.
Right.
And then the purchase order gets assigned, gets sent to us. And we have
So she's saying if they go out and do the work without having a purchase order, and then after the fact, they get issued a purchase order with the cooperative number on it. And how do they handle that? Here's the deal. Really, to be honest, you shouldn't be doing work without a purchase order. Or you know, if they do a PA, something like that, because they're not obligated to pay you. So facility side guy says, I gotta have it. And then purchasing says, well, they don't have a contract. I'm not gonna pay them. You just donated. They don't have to pay you if you decide to go to work without a purchase order. Okay? Now, they should have some things in place. And this is how I handle it. I don't know if you can convince your clients to do this or not. But I know what I did last year. I go find all the contracts, all the cooperative contracts I need for the following year. I know how much I'm going to spend in electrical, roughly, roofing, mechanical, kitchen equipment. I take those cooperative contracts at the beginning of my year, and I ask for those approval with not to exceed amounts. So electrical services, not to exceed 500,000, and I get approval up front at the start of my year. It's not a blanket purchase order. I'm first just getting board approval to spend that money, to allocate it to those lines. But then what happens is and this is going to depend on the entity. Some entities make a bunch of purchase orders for like $1,000. And then once they find out how much it's going to be, they go back and do a change order to increase it or decrease it. Some do a blanket purchase order. But they go ahead and get those contracts approved with not to exceed amounts up front so that they can get you a PO and you can go to work very quickly. That's the best way I've seen to be able to juggle it. I get in trouble if I call somebody out without a PO or a PA. And that's the way they've always done it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. So she said that they received POs for really big amounts. And then once they went out there and did the work, it was a fraction of that cost. And so even in that scenario, they're supposed to go back and do a change order and drop that amount down to what you actually invoiced, unless it's a blanket purchase order. And the rules around blankets are a little bit different. They can call you out multiple times until they exhaust the amount on that blanket. The line item assessment, I'm going to show you what this looks like. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but Choice Partners does have it on their website as well, where you can go look at it. If you go to choicepartners.org and then you click on the About Us tab and go down to presentations and click that, they typically upload this recording. It's a link, but to my knowledge, you cannot click on that link. You have to copy and paste it into your browser. If you click it, you get an error. And it should have the PowerPoint as well, where you can go in and actually see it full size. it should be localized by applying the city cost index. So you understand these unit price books are based on a national average. Okay, and then they have multipliers that are applied to those costs to increase them or decrease them depending on the area of work where the work is being performed. So work in California is probably not going to be the same price as work in Texas, right? We know that. They have multipliers to increase or decrease it depending on where the work's being done. And then your legally bid coefficient. For the construction piece, that is the only thing you bid. There's one small exception, and that's non-pre-priced line items. We ask you to bid a % markup, okay? But those should be few and far between. You should try to make those non-existent if possible. And the reason is because it either has to be deemed a sole source, not you provide them with the sole source affidavit, but deemed a sole source. Many of them are having to go to TEA and get that sole source approval, and it's deemed by the state. You don't want to do that. The other option is that you have to obtain 3 quotes and then add that % markup that you bid to the one that's most beneficial to your client. How many times can you go out and get 3 quotes? It's real hard sometimes. Sometimes you can only get 1. You already know who they want to use. They've told you. There's only one person that can provide it. Can't get 3. Don't want to get 3. But if they get audited or they send it to Choice Partners to review, you have to have 3. All subcontractor pricing must be estimated using that unit price book for all scopes of work. So here's the deal. And roofers, I'm going to pick on you again. Let's say you're doing a roofing project, but you've got a little bit of electrical and a little bit of plumbing. And so you line out all your roofing line items beautiful. But then you say electrical subcontractor proposal in an amount, $50,000. Plumbing subcontractor proposal, $70,000. It's not permissible. It's not the subcontractor's quote plus your markup. The unit price book has electrical and plumbing line items, and you're expected to use them. That's true of all job order contracting. That's not specific to Choice Partners. All right, this is a little small. Let me see if I can make it bigger. All right, that's about as big as I'm going to be able to get it. But so you understand, this is what a line item assessment could look like. The key things here are, data release. Is it the most current? This says 2019 Q2. I'm in 2021 Q4. I would ask them to go back and change that. Gives me the quantity of each line item, a 12-digit code. Okay, anyone can grab that 12-digit code, go type it into the unit price book, and find out if that line item has been manipulated in any way. So you export it to Excel, you type in your own numbers, they send it to their estimator reviews it, or they send it to Choice to review it. We type in the number and it doesn't match, you got to go back and fix it. The description. Anything not included in that description is an additional line item. So if it says equipment rental backhoe, and it doesn't list the operator, that operator's an additional line item. Make sense? If the description says with operator, then it's not an additional line item. You have your unit of measure. Choice Partners contracts run off of the total OMP columns, an extended total OMP column. So what that means is if you're using RS means, the pricing that you charge them is the column that already includes overhead and profit. So your coefficient in that OMP pricing column is the only overhead and profit that should be in your estimate. You should not add additional overhead and profit on top of the overhead and profit that's been added in by the price book. Your labor type. One says R&R, that's repair and renovation. It could say STD for standard union, FMR for facilities maintenance and repair. What it probably should not say in most cases is user. When we see user, that's a red flag that somebody has manipulated that line item. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, so to repeat the question, he said, wouldn't it be easier for the customer to tell you what they're willing to spend versus what you would charge? But what if what they're willing to spend isn't feasible? What if you can't get it for that price in this market? I mean, there's plenty of governmental entities that they don't do construction regularly and they don't have a good concept of what has happened in our supply chain and our labor in this current market. So no, I would not, I mean, I understand going into the project that if you can't hit that number, you may not get the award. But at the end of the day, your costs are your costs. You don't necessarily just want to agree to their number, not knowing if you can turn a profit, right? You still got to make money. And again, the statute doesn't say that your bid is whatever the member's willing to pay. It says it's that price book with your legally bid coefficient. Now understand that those line items with your coefficient creates a not to exceed number. If you feel you have to give an additional discount to get the project, that is your choice. You don't have to, and many true job order contracting vendors will not. But in the trade area and you bid a coefficient, maybe you don't know truly where that's going to land in your projects yet, and you realize that you've got to give an additional discount to be competitive, you can do that. You just can't go over that number. Okay. Data release, already talked about. City cost index. If you see this, it says Texas Houston 770 to 772. So the city cost index is based on the first 3 digits of the zip code. Okay. And here's the example. If you go into the price book and you type in 775, it's going to say 775 Galveston. But if you're local here, you know that LaPorte is 775, Baytown is 775. It's not just Galveston, right? We're not so much worried about the city that's listed as much as we are that those first 3 digits match the location of the project. And then last, there's the note section. If you're doing calculations with waste factors, you know, they want you to paint a 10 by 10 wall, and you add in a waste factor for paint, or maybe they want 3 coats. And so you're saying 10 by 10 times 3. You can put those calculations in there. If you're working on a federal contract, especially like FEMA, a lot of times they want to see where that line item is being applied to. So you might say 70% is applied to Hall A, 20% is applied to Hall B, 10% is Hall C. Or 70% is the high school, 20% is the field house or the athletic area, 10% is the chiller yard. Okay? They want to see where the money is going, how it's being divided up. If you're using a line item that's similar, but not the same as what you're providing, and you don't want to get into that non-pre-priced headache, you can provide a note explaining what it is you're providing. And as long as the member agrees that the note is close enough, not exact to that description, they can accept it. Make sense? Then what happens is you get your subtotal down here, and this is where you're going to apply what you bid, your legally bid coefficient, to increase or decrease the cost of that estimate. To understand what a coefficient is, it's the baseline is 1.0. If you bid a 1.0, it means you agree to all the pricing in the price book. Okay. If you bid a 0.90, then you're bidding 10% off the price book. And if you bid a 1.10, you are increasing that price book by 10%. It's basically the opposite of a discount. When you take your total, you don't multiply it by 0.1 to get 10% off and then subtract it from the total. You just multiply it against 0.9 and that automatically takes the 10% out. Did I lose y'all? Okay. That's where you can add any additional discount. You should put something to restrict that discount so it doesn't become a permanent discount. So good for this project only. Good till X date. Something to limit that discount, okay? That's pretty much true of all cooperative contracts because they have language in there that states if you give a discount to one of their clients and you're doing something similar for another client, you got to give them the same discount. But here's the deal. In the real world, sometimes you get incentives by your suppliers and you're able to get stuff cheaper during that time frame that you cannot get for the duration of your contract. You can pass those discounts on to your clients, but you need to restrict it so that they understand this is not a permanent change to the contract. Make sense? Add in any bonding, permits, those are pass-throughs. You want to add them after you apply your coefficient. You don't want your bonds and permits reduced by your discount that you bid. The price book will allow you to add these in up front as a line item, but if you do that, then it's going to reduce them by your coefficient. Choice Partners considers these a pass-through cost, and that means they don't charge their fee, their administrative fee on those pass-through items. So bonding, permitting, you're supposed to pass that cost directly onto the vendor, your client. Don't mark it up, and then there's no fee associated with it. You just have to break it out. And then you have your new total. Clear as mud? Everyone has a headache now. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was going back to college. There's a reason why I skipped college. I admit this is overwhelming and I don't expect you to remember it all. And at the end of the day, your client is the one legally responsible for following this. But I can tell you, many aren't. Those that never get audited, they've done it the way they've always done it. Nothing has ever been called out by a vendor. They don't know any different. Typically where these arise is a vendor gets upset and they either file a protest or they take them to court. And that's when it's a problem. But then you've got everybody in your business. You lose control of your project. Nobody wants that. Ugh. So review the JOC quote. Here's the deal. If you're doing a JOC quote with Choice Partners, you can send it to them and they will review it against your contract. So what that means is Choice Partners is not going to get into the scope of work. We're not getting into your quantities. We're not going to tell you if your line item applies to your project or not, unless it's grossly obvious. So, if you're repouring a parking lot and you've got 5 man lifts in that project, we might ask you why. I don't know, maybe you're taking aerial photos when the project's done, but there's drones for that now. So probably shouldn't be in there. We'll ask about stuff like that. But we're going to check that city cost index, make sure that you localized it. You're not charging national average. Coefficient, that you applied it correctly and used the correct one. Most of you bid a regular hours and an after hours. So if you're doing regular hour work, we should not see your after hours coefficient being applied. That you use the correct pricing column. If it's RS means it's OMP pricing. If you bid one of the other price books, Choice Partners has added 3 others, Sierra West, Xactimate, and Craftsman National Construction Cost Estimator. Those 3 price books do not have an OMP column, okay? So you'll use just the regular pricing column, but hopefully when you bid your coefficient, you bid it higher, knowing that. So, a 0.9 in RS means might be a 0.1, or no, let me say that over, might be a 1.2, okay? That could be the exact same pricing, but one is using overhead and profit and the other one's not. Not all price books are created equal. They don't all work the same. Non-pre-priced items. If we see that user or we type in that line item number and we see that pricing does not match, then we're going to ask you for all your backup documentation to support it. Attempt to pass through the cooperative fee. Cooperative fee is in your coefficient. If you go into section 1 of Choice Partners contract, they have listed definitions. One of them is coefficient, okay? And they list a whole bunch of things that are included in it. If it's in that definition, you can't charge it as an additional line item. So it says site supervision. So we shouldn't see site supervision in your estimate. It says final cleanup by GC. Well, you can have final or cleanup continuous per day, but you can't have final cleanup by GC. Okay, we're going to ask you to remove those things. Use of Division 1. Again, are you using any items out of Division 1 that are included in that coefficient? Our contracts do allow the use of certain areas of Division 1, such as rental equipment, but a lot of the overhead items, it does not allow the use of. It is restricted. And then adjustment factors. Did you use adjustment factors? If you did, we make the member aware that you used them, and then it's up to their discretion as to whether or not they want to accept them. Okay, adjustment factor is basically adjusting the price because of the working condition. So if you're working in a confined space, or you're working at an elevated height over 10 or 11 feet, things like that. Your client can send your quote to Choice Partners at any time and ask for a review. If it's a job contract, this is what we're going to look for. If it's a service commodity contract, we're still going to make sure that you followed the pricing that you bid, that you don't have anything in there that you didn't bid, and that you followed all aspects of the contract. Make sense? And a lot of co-ops are going through this. This isn't just a Choice Partners thing. There's no fee associated with it, though, to you or your client. All right? The only time there's ever a fee is that administrative fee once you're paid out for the project or the sale. All the additional trainings, services, reviews that we perform, there's no additional cost for those. So if you decide you sat in this training today and you're going, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, I want to go sit with this guy, call Choice Partners, call your contract manager. They'll set up a training with me, and we can do it with you individually. We can do it with your team. We can do it in person. We can do it over Zoom. That is at your disposal, so use it if you need it. The job order should be issued by the owner. You can go out there and walk the project and help them develop that scope of work, but they should issue you something formal in writing with that agreed upon scope of work. It should be signed by both parties, and it should include their prevailing wages. If I asked you how many of your clients provide you with prevailing wages, I'd be surprised if I saw one hand. But if you're performing construction services, you're required to provide prevailing wages. Now, that may be Davis-Bacon, or that may be something else that they adopted internally, that they took to the board and adopted. Okay, that's a good question to ask if you don't ask that. Hey, are prevailing wages going to apply to this project? Okay, can I get a copy of that? Bidder proposal. And here's why this is even a conversation. And for those online, I don't know what state you're in. This really applies to Texas. This is a Texas thing, okay? So the deal is that you cannot recompete vendors, right? If you do a bid and you respond to a bid, they're not supposed to recompete you. But please understand that the state of Texas says that the bid is the formal written sealed response that satisfies the state procurement requirements for a governmental entity. So it's what you submitted to Choice Partners. It's that coefficient. It is not your quote. So once you get your bid awarded, if you get your bid awarded, all of you in this room have had it awarded, then you go out and you issue quotes based on specific scopes of work using the pricing you bid. The members can get one or they can get 100. The state does not restrict the number that they can get. I believe as a best practice, you should get no more than about 3. Please understand that a lot of federal grants are now requiring 3 quotes if they're using cooperatives. And so whether or not you want them to get 3 quotes, they're going to have to if they don't want to get those funds deobligated. So I consider anywhere from 1 to 3 quotes acceptable. They can get 1 and run with it. If it's local dollars and their policy allows it, they can do that. But there's going to be times when they have to get 3 here in Texas. So I've got some final thoughts. You know, the first one is to make sure you establish that procurement method up front with your clients. Because if you don't, just like you stated, you get hit with a cooperative fee that you didn't know about, but you're still on the hook for it. Because the minute you accept that PO, you accepted all the terms, including that cooperative contract. Include the contract number on both the quote and the PO. When you're working with co-ops, especially on the construction side, the co-op needs to receive a confirming copy of that PO. And most co-ops also require monthly reporting. This basically completes the legal procurement process. So the majority of co-ops out there, we require you to send a monthly report telling us when you've used our contract and how much. If your client gets into an audit and they say, hey, we used your contract. No, you didn't. I don't have anything from the vendor stating you used it. It becomes a headache for them in their audit. They're supposed to report to us too. They don't always. But if you want to protect them, then you should report it. Okay. That completes that legal procurement process. It's actually legally required within your contracts. I know there's a few exceptions to that monthly, not many. I think it's mostly on the food side. But whatever your contract states, make sure you're following it. I believe it's in section 5 of your contract. And then, if you heard nothing else in this presentation, please know that I am not an attorney and this is not legal advice. Okay? When it comes to legal questions, please ask your own attorneys. All right? Y'all have any questions? Y'all completely overwhelmed? Have a small, dull headache? I understand. I'm sorry. I know this is really dry, but I tried to give some examples and make it as entertaining as possible. If you do have questions, again, feel free to reach out to your contract manager. If you want to set up a meeting with me, they can set that up for you. My contact information is on this slide. You can contact me that way as well. And if there's no other questions, Jojo, do we have any online questions? No, all right. So at this time, we're going to post this survey. If you have not completed already, please do so. Let us know how we did. Let us know what we did good, what we did not so good. If you didn't like breakfast, make sure you let Jeff know. No. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Yep. Okay.
All right. All right, we lost 2, so I'm going to make this quick. You always hate to be presenting and be the person between this and lunch. Not for the Zoom friends, but all the local folks. I know that there's food over there. Just a couple of reminders. as Tricia mentioned, the food vendor show is already scheduled October 13th of next year. The vendor show the next day. Anyone that's a recently awarded vendor or any of our friends that have been around for decades, make sure that you participate in that. It's a good time. Just a couple things that Tricia mentioned, the food contracts were very restrictive on our contracts, and that's what people look for. And typically when people are going into audits or want to make sure things are being done right, compliantly, you're usually going to be covered. As a vendor, having been a vendor 30 years before doing this, I don't care. I just want the order and I want to sell something and I want to move on down the road. Well, I get that. But when you're dealing with all of the members and they're all government entities and they're all subject to audits and doing things right and all that type stuff, we always talk about, good news travels fast, bad news travels faster. So you don't want to be that person not complying or being the person that gets that purchasing person or the facilities person or the IT person in trouble. You will be safe using our contracts. Just use them correctly. And I think if you remember some of the nuggets that Stephen talked about, that Janet talked about, Michael talked about, don't let this be the last conversation. Let this be the beginning of letting us help you. We're not here to say, okay, see you later, and don't call us, we'll call you. Use those numbers, the 877 number that Janet was talking about. That's typically someone's going to answer that almost immediately or call back shortly. So, we want to make sure that your questions are answered, that you get your customers taken care of, our members, and get answers to their questions, issues, or concerns. I think that's about it. I want to let you guys know that we enjoyed having you. I hope that you learned a little bit. You probably hopefully you have more questions than you ever thought you would have before coming here, because I know just talking to a couple of people walking in, it's kind of like, hey, I'm new with the company. They just sent me here to kind of find out a little bit about what a co-op is, or maybe online you're like, oh, well, they told us to see how to use this contract. Hopefully we opened your eyes and we can help you sell more business and make your customers happier by using our contracts. All right. So with that, y'all have a good Christmas, good Happy New Year. And everybody here, I believe food is over next door. Feel free to, stay in, fill out your survey and, chat with us, ask questions as we're eating. Anything online, I think we'll be online for just another couple moments. Questions, Joanne will respond, or we'll respond one way or the other. But thank you for sharing your time with us, and hopefully you learned a little bit about Choice Partners and using our contracts. All right. I think we're it. Do I need to hit stop recording here? You got it, Joanne?